Some nights, life does not ache in a loud way. It rests on your chest in silence, like a truth that has not found words yet. You bring the whole day into bed with you, and some part of it is still awake inside your heart. What if peace does not begin when life finally makes sense, but when you stop asking it to become something other than what it is? Welcome to Starlit Science Stories. This is a gentle place for peaceful thoughts and quiet wisdom at the end of the day. Tonight, let us sit beside life as it is, softly enough that your mind can loosen and your breath can begin to trust the dark again. There is something very human about this hour, something almost sacred in the way the body becomes still while the inner life keeps moving. During the day, so much can be hidden behind tasks, faces, messages, responsibilities, small routines, and practical concerns. But at night, when the world asks less of you, you sometimes feel more. Thoughts that stayed quiet in the daylight begin to rise like shapes from deep water. A regret that seemed manageable in the afternoon becomes tender again. A longing you did not have time to notice opens its eyes. Even a simple tiredness can carry a private sorrow inside it, because being alive is beautiful, but it is also strange, uncertain, unfinished, and full of things the heart cannot neatly arrange. You may not have come here with one clear question. It may be that nothing is exactly wrong, and yet rest still will not come. It may be that something is wrong, but it has no simple name. It may be grief, or loneliness, or love, or fear, or change, or the small invisible bruises left by an ordinary day. It may be the quiet weight of being a person who feels deeply and keeps going anyway. Whatever it is, there is no need to force it into language too quickly. Some things do not soften when they are explained. Some things soften only when they are gently accompanied. So tonight, there is nothing to solve in a hurry. There is only this slow and patient movement inward, where the mind does not need to perform clarity, and the heart does not need to pretend it is untouched. We will let life be large enough to hold its questions, and we will let your breathing be simple enough to remind you that you are already here, already held by the fact of being alive. If something heavy has followed you into this moment, let it sit nearby without argument. You do not need to throw it away tonight. Perhaps it is enough, for now, to stop carrying it alone. It is easy to believe that peace belongs to people whose lives are finally in order, to people who have made sense of their past, chosen correctly, spoken wisely, loved cleanly, and arranged their days with calm hands. But the truth is often gentler than that. Peace does not belong only to the sorted and certain. It also belongs to the tired. It belongs to the confused. It belongs to the person who did their best and still feels unfinished when the pillow meets their head. So much of life leaves behind a residue that does not show itself until the room grows quiet. A conversation continues inside the mind after it has ended in the world. A look on someone's face returns with new meanings. A choice made years ago suddenly asks to be felt again. You lie down, but some part of you remains standing in the doorway of the day, looking back, wondering if something should have been said differently, noticed sooner, forgiven more fully, protected more carefully, understood more deeply. This is one of the hidden labors of being human. The body longs for rest, but the mind keeps sorting fragments as if enough thought might turn life into something smooth and manageable. Yet life has never truly been smooth, and perhaps it was never meant to be manageable in that way. It is made of half-finished feelings, uncertain seasons, tender bonds, sudden changes, and moments that arrive before you are ready. That does not mean you are doing it badly. It means you are living it honestly. There is a quiet dignity in this, not in having no questions, but in carrying questions without becoming hard, not in controlling every feeling, but in letting feelings move through you without believing they have destroyed what is deepest in you. Tonight, maybe one of the kindest things you can remember is that weariness is not evidence of failure. It is often evidence of contact with life. It means you loved things, tried things, feared things, cared about outcomes, met other hearts, and moved through hours that asked something of you. Even your restlessness may be a sign that your inner life is alive and still reaching toward meaning, even when it cannot yet find words. There is an old image from Marcus Aurelius, the weary emperor who wrote to himself in the middle of chaos, and it is the image of returning within to that inward place no noise can truly enter unless the mind allows it. Sometimes people imagine this as a cold kind of detachment, as if peace means turning away from life or becoming unreachable. But that is not how it feels in the quietest reading of him. It feels more like remembering that inside you there is a room that has not been ruined by the day, a room untouched by the clumsy comment, the delayed reply, the misunderstanding, the pressure, the memory, the future, the sense that you should have been more than you were. The Stoic heart, at its most peaceful, is not trying to escape the world. It is trying to find a steadiness that can remain gentle while the world remains uncertain. That inner room is not made of denial. It is made of perspective. It is the place where you realize that today was only one day, that a passing emotion is not the whole truth of your life, that a difficult hour is real but not final, and that your worth does not vanish every time your thoughts grow troubled. You do not have to build this room tonight. It already exists. You may have forgotten it. You may have wandered far from it. But it is still there, quiet as a hidden lamp. Perhaps you have felt it before in small moments that seemed ordinary at the time. The pause after tears when no more could be said, the breath after an apology, the strange clarity that sometimes follows disappointment, the softness that appears when you finally stop trying to control how you are seen. That is the inward place. It is not dramatic. It does not arrive with trumpets. It simply waits for you to stop confusing noise with truth. And here, in this slower hour, you can begin to sense it again, not as a victory over life, but as a little shelter within it. When the mind is tired, it often tries to save itself by thinking harder. It circles a mistake as if more review might undo it. It tests imaginary futures as if preparing for pain could prevent pain. It revisits old wounds as if perfect understanding would close them. But there is a softness in Stoic thought that gets missed when people treat it like a system of iron will. Beneath its discipline is a very tender recognition that the mind is most disturbed not only by what happens, but by the stories it feels forced to keep telling about what happens. You may tell yourself that because you are troubled, something must be wrong with you. You may tell yourself that because a certain memory still stings, you have not healed enough. You may tell yourself that because life remains uncertain, you are somehow behind in the work of being calm. Yet none of these thoughts are necessarily true. They are simply thoughts moving through a tired heart late at night, borrowing the seriousness of darkness. This is why so many peaceful ideas arrive not as grand lessons, but as tiny adjustments of vision. Not everything that visits you tonight deserves to be believed. Not every shadow in the room is a message. Not every feeling is a command. A quiet mind is not a mind without movement. It is a mind that no longer treats every movement as destiny. There is relief in that. The day may have been tangled. The inner life may still be unsettled. But underneath the shifting weather of thought, there is something in you capable of watching without panic. Even the act of noticing that you are spinning is already a kind of return. It means the deepest part of you has not been swallowed by the storm. It is still there, witnessing, patient, unhurried, able to say, very softly, this too is passing through. Think of how many invisible things a person carries without announcing them. A sentence that landed too hard. a silence from someone once trusted, the effort of appearing normal when the heart is full of unnamed weather, the pressure of decisions that do not come with certainty, the old bruise of being misunderstood, the private embarrassment of wanting tenderness in a world that praises strength. When you lie awake, you may feel all of this at once, not as one sharp pain, but as a quiet accumulation, the way dust gathers in a room so gradually that no single moment can be blamed. Stoic peace does not ask you to deny the dust. It only asks whether you must identify with every speck of it. You are not merely the sum of what clings to you. You are also the awareness that notices what has gathered. This is a subtle difference, but it changes the feeling of the night. If you are the dust, then every regret becomes your identity. Every fear becomes your future. Every ache becomes proof of something broken at the center. But if you are the quiet witness beneath the dust, then there is space again. Then thoughts can be brushed aside, one by one, not because they are evil, but because they are not the deepest thing about you. The deepest thing about you may be much calmer than your present feeling suggests. It may be older than this day, wiser than this mood, softer than your defenses, and more whole than the story of your unrest. You do not need to force yourself into serenity. That usually tightens the mind. Instead, you can let your thoughts grow a little less personal, a little less absolute. You can let them be part of the night, part of the passing weather of consciousness. In that gentle widening, you may feel the first true invitation to rest. Sometimes what keeps you awake is not one sorrow, but the belief that you should have mastered life by now. You should know how to respond when people disappoint you. You should understand your own patterns. You should have made peace with the past. You should have become less sensitive, less uncertain, less moved by things that ought to be simple. But a human life does not unfold in straight, clean lines. It loops, it returns. It reveals deeper layers of old questions. It gives you new tenderness where you thought there was only knowledge. It humbles you in places where you once felt certain. This is not a flaw in the design. It may be the design itself. A peaceful Stoic thought is not that life becomes easy when you become wise. It is that wisdom may be the willingness to meet life exactly where it refuses to be easy. Not with bitterness, not with denial, simply with a steadier gaze. If your heart still trembles over things you thought you had settled, that does not mean you are lost. It means the soul does not heal by obeying a schedule. If grief returns in a softer form after years of quiet, that does not mean it failed to leave. It means love leaves a long echo. If fear appears again, even after brave days, that does not erase the bravery. It only reminds you that courage was never the absence of fear. It was the willingness to continue in its presence. And if tonight you feel more fragile than you wanted to feel, let that be part of the truth too. Fragility is not always a crack. Sometimes it is an opening. Sometimes it is how life reminds you that you are still reachable, still capable of feeling, still not sealed shut against wonder. And when you stop measuring yourself against an imaginary version of perfect composure, you may notice something gentler arriving. The possibility that you do not need to become harder to live well. You may simply need to become more honest and more kind with the life that is actually here. There is a moment, often so quiet it is easy to miss, when the mind realizes that not every burden truly belongs in its hands. This can feel almost like disappointment at first, because part of you has been trained to believe that enough worry is a form of love, enough vigilance a form of responsibility, enough overthinking a form of protection. But many of the heaviest things are not made lighter by constant gripping. Some are only made more tangled. And so the next peaceful thought is not about becoming careless. it is about becoming truthful. It is about noticing the line between what can be guided and what can only be endured, witnessed, accepted, or released. There is grief in learning that line. There is also relief. The heart can spend years trying to govern outcomes that never asked for its permission. It tries to make other people understand, tries to guarantee loyalty, tries to prevent loss, tries to edit the past, tries to bargain with time, tries to predict the next wound before it arrives. No wonder so many people are tired. They are living as if vigilance can hold the world together. Yet the world was never held together by any one person's tension. It turns, it changes, it opens and closes in ways beyond anyone's complete command. To feel this is not to become passive. It is to become humble in a healing way. It is to admit that the hand can only hold so much before it begins to hurt itself. Tonight, perhaps one of the kindest permissions is this: you do not have to clutch every uncertain thing in order to prove that you care. Love does not always need to grip. Sometimes it needs to bless and loosen. Sometimes it needs to say, very quietly, I would have protected this if I could, but I am not the keeper of all outcomes. Epictetus offered one of the simplest and most liberating distinctions in philosophy when he said that some things are up to us and some are not. The sentence is plain, almost too plain, yet its plainness is part of its mercy. When life becomes emotionally crowded, the mind forgets simple truths first. It forgets that another person's mood is not fully yours to govern. It forgets that the past will not answer to your late-night arguments. It forgets that outcomes do not become obedient merely because they matter deeply to you. It forgets that people can love you and still fail you, that you can try sincerely and still be misunderstood, that you can plan carefully and still meet surprise. The Stoic invitation here is not to stop caring. It is to stop building your inner weather around things that were never yours to command. There is a tender honesty in asking, what in this situation belongs to my hands, and what belongs to the larger movement of life? Perhaps what belongs to your hands is how truthfully you speak, how gently you respond, how carefully you choose, how honestly you admit your limits, how faithfully you remain with what is good in you. And perhaps what does not belong to your hands is how everyone receives you, whether every effort succeeds, whether every bond lasts, whether every plan ripens, whether every wound closes on your preferred schedule. When you begin to feel this distinction, something in the body loosens, not all at once, not dramatically, but like a fist realizing it can open. You may still be sad. You may still care very much, yet the care becomes cleaner, less frantic, less crowded by impossible duties. The soul begins to understand that peace is not a prize given after control is achieved. It is what becomes possible when control stops impersonating love. How much of your exhaustion has come from rehearsing conversations that are already over? How much has come from trying to explain yourself to people who have already chosen their version of you? How much from thinking, if only I had said this, if only I had seen that, if only I had not been so open, so hesitant, so trusting, so afraid? These thoughts arrive like little tribunals in the dark, and they promise resolution, but they often deliver only repetition. There is a kind of sorrow in recognizing that the mind prefers familiar pain to unfamiliar peace. Replaying becomes easier than releasing. The known ache feels safer than the open space that follows when it is finally put down. Yet the Stoic heart asks whether repetition is truly loyalty to truth or only loyalty to habit. Perhaps you are not awake because the answer has not been found. Perhaps you are awake because the mind has grown attached to the search itself. This happens in grief, in love, in shame, in disappointment, in hope. The mind says, stay here a little longer, one more pass through the memory, one more attempt to decode the silence, one more effort to stitch together what already came apart. But life rarely explains itself under interrogation. Sometimes it only becomes gentler when questioning gives way to presence. This does not mean the unanswered things stop mattering. It means they no longer have to dominate the room. You can care about something without letting it become the sole horizon of your inner world. You can remain tender toward a person, a past, a loss, a hope, without making your whole nervous system bow to it. That is not indifference. That is self-respect. That is the quiet beginning of freedom. And freedom, in this sense, is not dramatic. It is simply the ability to breathe without asking every breath to solve the story. One of the more peaceful truths is that events and judgments are not the same thing, even though they can feel inseparable when emotion is fresh. Something happens, and the mind rushes in with meaning. A message goes unanswered, and the heart says, I am not wanted. A plan falls apart, and the mind says, nothing is secure. Someone changes, and the soul whispers, I must have failed to be enough. A season ends, and the body feels all beauty leaves. But what happened and what the mind declared about what happened are not always identical. The Stoics understood that suffering grows larger when the mind hardens its first interpretations into law. This is not because emotion is false. Emotion is often wise in its own early language. It tells you what touched you, what threatened you, what mattered. But the first meaning the mind assigns is not always the final truth. And late at night, when tenderness is heightened and defenses are low, first meanings can feel enormous. This is why it helps to become slower than your first interpretation. Not dismissive, not cynical, just slower. To say, perhaps this hurts, and I do not yet know all that it means. Perhaps this fear is real, and it is not the whole story. Perhaps this loss is profound, and it does not cancel all future sweetness. Perhaps this mistake matters, and it does not define the soul that made it. Such thoughts are not tricks. They are acts of mercy toward the exhausted mind. They widen the room. They allow grief to be grief without turning it into doom. They allow uncertainty to remain uncertainty without becoming a final sentence over your worth. In this widening, the nervous system begins to trust that it does not need to solve everything before sleep can come. Sometimes it is enough to loosen the meanings just a little, to let life remain more open than fear would prefer. There is an intimacy in admitting your limits. It does not flatter the ego, but it soothes the heart. To say, I cannot control how I am remembered by everyone. I cannot guarantee that love will always be answered in the way I hope. I cannot prevent change from arriving. I cannot protect every dear thing from time. I cannot think my way out of all pain. These sentences may sound sad at first, and there is sadness in them, but there is also relief because they return you to the scale of being human. You were never meant to play every role at once. Not judge, savior, prophet, guardian, healer, and architect of every future. You are one life, one consciousness, one breathing being moving through a mysterious world. There is humility in this, and humility can be tendering. It can lay a cool cloth across an overheated mind. Much of what disturbs you at night may not be the actual size of the problem, but the size of the responsibility you have assigned yourself inside it. If you believe you must hold together every relationship, anticipate every danger, decipher every silence, atone for every old mistake, and reach certainty before dawn, of course, rest will not come easily. But if you allow yourself to be only one small human soul, sincere but limited, loving but finite, awake but unable to control the stars, then a different feeling enters. Not defeat, proportion. And proportion is deeply calming. It lets the heart understand that it does not have to swell to the size of the universe in order to be worthy. It only has to be honest. Tonight, honesty may sound like this: I care, and I cannot control everything I care about. I feel deeply, and feeling deeply does not give me power over the flow of events. I am present, and presence is enough for this hour. There is something profoundly restful in no longer confusing devotion with domination. Once the hand opens a little, another question begins to rise beneath the old one. If control cannot save you, then what can accompany you? If certainty will not always come, what makes uncertainty bearable? If life remains ungovernable in so many ways, what form of wisdom can still offer shelter? The answer is not mastery. It is companionship of a quieter kind, a way of being with life rather than over it, a willingness to inhabit your own experience with steadiness even when outcomes remain unclear. This is where the night becomes more intimate, because beneath the desire to control is often a deeper longing, not for power, but for reassurance. You do not merely want to manage life. You want to know that you can survive its changes. You want to know that if love shifts, if plans fail, if age comes, if pain returns, if endings arrive, something within you will not disappear. This longing is not childish, it is profoundly human. And perhaps the most peaceful response is not a promise that nothing hard will happen, but a slower trust that you have a way of meeting what happens without losing your deepest self. Not perfectly, not without tears, but with a dignity that does not depend on ideal conditions. This is why quiet philosophy has always spoken to sleepless hearts, not because it removes mystery, but because it teaches a form of inner company. It sits beside you in the dark and says, life is uncertain, yes, but you are not helpless inside uncertainty. You are not powerless because you cannot dominate what is passing through. You still have the ability to meet this moment with awareness, to choose gentleness over panic, truth over performance, presence over frantic prediction. And perhaps that is enough, not for all of life at once, but for tonight. There is another loneliness that arrives when the grip begins to loosen. It is the loneliness of discovering how much of your inner life has always been lived in silence. People may know your schedule, your face, your abilities, your habits, your sense of humor, your opinions, even your kindness. They may know the story of your life in its public shape. But very few know the exact texture of being you. Very few know how a certain memory still brushes against your chest years later, or how your smile has sometimes hidden not falsehood, but effort. Very few know how much longing can exist in a person who appears calm, or how much tiredness can live beneath competence, or how many invisible negotiations a heart can make just to get through an ordinary day. This is not because others are cruel. It is because consciousness is private in ways language can only partly bridge. Every soul has rooms no visitor fully enters. And sometimes, late at night, that private interior feels vast. You may remember times you tried to explain yourself and felt the words flatten. Times you wanted to be understood, not in facts, but in feeling, and found that even love has limits of translation. This can be painful. Yet there is also something deeply tender about it. To be human is not only to seek connection, but to carry a secret interiority no one else can live for you. Perhaps some of your restlessness comes from wanting another person, past or present, to fully witness what even you are still learning to name. There is no shame in that longing. It is one of the oldest longings there is. But there may be peace in realizing that the first witness your inner life needs is not always someone else. Sometimes it is your own patient awareness, arriving without judgment at the door of your own depths. Carl Jung wrote that much of what is unexamined in us shapes our lives from the shadows. It is a haunting thought when first heard, but tonight it can be a soft one. It can mean that the feelings you have tucked away have not vanished. They have simply waited for a quieter hour. The envy you were embarrassed to feel, the grief you told yourself was no longer reasonable, the shame from some old moment that still burns in secret, the tenderness you protected with distance, the anger that was never given a safe language, the longing you were taught to call foolish. These are not monsters under the bed. They are parts of the self that learn to survive by becoming quiet. And when night comes, when roles fall away, when the body stops performing usefulness, these hidden parts may stir, not to punish you. Often they stir because they want to be included in your humanity at last. This does not mean you must analyze everything until dawn. That would only create another kind of strain. It simply means that what appears in the dark does not need to be treated as an enemy. You can notice a feeling without collapsing into it. You can feel shame without becoming shame. You can feel grief without deciding you are broken. You can sense an old loneliness returning without believing it has conquered all the years since. The inward life is less like a machine to repair and more like a sea with shifting depths. Some things come to the surface only when the weather is right, and if tonight something old has risen in you, perhaps it is enough to say, "I see that you are here. I do not need to exile you again." Such simple recognition can be astonishingly calming. It stops the civil war inside. It allows the self to become a place of meeting rather than rejection. And once the inner world is met with less fear, it begins to lose some of its power to terrify. How many people move through life wearing a face that can function while carrying an interior that aches for gentleness? Perhaps more than you know, perhaps most. The world often rewards composure, speed, confidence, answers, performance, and a kind of efficient brightness. But the soul is not always efficient. It lingers, it doubts, it remembers. It wants to stand still beside things that matter. It wants tenderness that does not need to justify itself. This is one reason so many quiet people carry such deep fatigue. They have learned to translate their raw human experience into acceptable forms. They call grief tiredness. They call loneliness being busy. They call longing overthinking. They call heartbreak a phase. They call spiritual hunger stress. They learn to function, and sometimes functioning is noble. But it can also make the deeper self feel abandoned. At night, abandoned things call out. Not always loudly. Sometimes just as a heaviness without clear cause, a resistance to sleep, a wave of sadness that has no immediate object. If that is part of what you feel, you are not strange. You may simply be hearing the voice of the unattended self. The self that has been useful for so long it forgot how to be held. The self that wonders beneath all the roles, whether it is allowed to be as tender as it truly is. There is dignity in strong faces and capable routines, yes, but there is equal dignity in the softer truth underneath them. The truth that says, I am trying, and I am also carrying more than I say. I am showing up, and I am also lonely in places I cannot easily explain. I am grateful, and I am also tired. I am loved in some ways, and still unknown in others. To admit such complexity is not weakness, it is honesty. and honesty is one of the deepest forms of rest. There are feelings that do not want solutions as much as they want space. This is difficult for the mind to accept because the mind likes tasks. It likes causes and effects, before and after, if and then. But the heart is often slower and less mechanical. It holds contradictions side by side. It can miss someone and know they were not safe. It can love and grieve at once. It can be thankful for life and exhausted by it in the same evening. It can forgive and still feel pain. It can move forward and still glance backward with tears. If you try to force the heart into clean logic, it resists, and rightly so. Human experience is not neat enough for that. One of the most gentle things you can do for yourself tonight is to allow the inner life its honest complexity. You do not have to choose one label for what you feel. You do not have to reduce yourself to a single sentence. You can be many things at once, hurt and healing, certain and unsure, open and tired, hopeful and sad, strong and needing comfort. Perhaps part of your wakefulness comes from trying to settle too quickly into one identity, one explanation, one emotional verdict. But the self is more spacious than that. It shifts. It contains histories, seasons, hidden loyalties, unfinished griefs, quiet strengths, and new perceptions not yet named. When you stop demanding immediate coherence, a softer order appears. Not the order of neat conclusions, but the order of truthfulness. The truth that a soul does not have to be simple to be worthy of peace. Sometimes peace begins when complexity is finally allowed to breathe. Then the night no longer feels like a courtroom where everything must be decided. It becomes more like a wide room where all parts of you can sit down without being driven out. There is a kind of shame that grows from being unable to explain your own heart, even to yourself. Why does this still matter? Why does that memory still sting? Why does this person still live somewhere in me? Why does the future feel both open and frightening? Why do I still long for things I know may never return? These questions can make you feel immature or foolish, as if time should have already made you neater than you are. But the soul is not embarrassed by its own depth until the world teaches it to be. There is nothing foolish about being marked by what has touched you deeply. There is nothing childish about needing more time than you expected. There is nothing weak about being moved by old tenderness, old losses, old hopes, old fears. To be shaped by life is not the same as failing to outgrow it. In truth, some of the most mature hearts are the ones that remain permeable, the ones that do not become numb just because numbness would be easier to explain. Jung understood that wholeness is not the same as perfection. It is not the polished version of yourself with all inconvenient feelings removed. It is the self that can hold light and shadow without becoming divided against itself. That is a quiet and sleepy thought, because it means you do not have to spend this night trying to erase half your humanity. You do not need to drag every difficult feeling into the light and interrogate it. You can simply stop treating your own interiority as a problem to be solved. You can let it be a landscape. You can walk through it slowly. You can trust that not every dark area is a danger. Some are simply depths you have not yet learned to inhabit peacefully. And with enough gentleness, even the deeper places begin to feel less like threats and more like truth. From here, time itself begins to look different. Once the hidden self is met with less fear, you start to see how much of your pain has been tied not only to what happened, but to the wish that things would remain as they were. A face once near is now only memory. A season of life that felt stable has passed. A version of yourself you once understood has been left behind. Even joy, when deeply felt, carries a shadow because it cannot stay. Evening teaches this better than any lecture. Every day vanishes, even the beautiful ones. The sunlight does not ask permission before it fades. The people you love are always changing, even while you look at them. You are changing while lying still. Nothing is static. Nothing promises permanence. This can sound harsh when heard by the frightened mind, but when heard by a quieter heart, it becomes almost tender. It means life was never failing you by changing. Change was always part of the agreement. The sadness you feel around it is not proof of injustice. It is proof that you have loved what passes, and that is one of the most noble things a human being can do. The Buddha spoke so simply about impermanence that the words can slip by almost unnoticed, yet they contain entire worlds. All conditioned things are passing, not in a cruel way and not as a punishment, simply as the nature of things. Clouds pass, youth passes, fear passes, seasons pass, pain changes shape, joy changes shape, relationships ripen, deepen, strain, transform, or end. The body moves through time. The mind gathers and releases. Even the identities you thought were fixed become softer at the edges. To resist this truth is one of the deepest sources of human suffering, not because resistance is sinful, but because it is exhausting. The heart keeps asking life to swear that what is dear will remain untouched. But life does not swear such oaths. It offers presence, not permanence. It offers this moment, not possession. And perhaps that is why moments feel so sacred when we really enter them. They are not sacred because they last. They are sacred because they do not. Think of how precious a voice becomes once it can only be remembered. Think of how a familiar place glows in memory once you understand you will never stand there in quite the same way again. Think of how even an ordinary evening once gone becomes part of the unrepeatable fabric of your life. Impermanence is not only the source of sorrow, it is also the source of tenderness. Without change, there would be no poignancy, no reverence, no urgency to love. The fragile nature of things is what gives them their strange radiance. And if tonight you are grieving something that changed, perhaps beneath the grief is the simple fact that it mattered, that it touched you, that it was real enough to leave an imprint. This is sad, yes, but it is also beautiful. It means your life has not been numb. It is common to think that peace will come only when you no longer care so much, when you no longer need, no longer miss, no longer remember, no longer wince at endings. But peace may be something gentler than indifference. It may be the ability to let things be precious without demanding that they stay, to love without clutching, to remember without insisting that memory become reality again, to stand in the truth that everything changes and still say, yes, it was worth loving. This is one of the deepest forms of maturity and one of the softest. Not because it does not hurt. It does hurt. It hurts to watch seasons end. It hurts to outgrow what once held you. It hurts to meet distance where closeness once lived. It hurts to see your own face change in the mirror, to feel time moving through parents, children, friends, lovers, dreams, homes, and bodies. But the pain of impermanence is inseparable from the privilege of participation. You suffer change because you are here for the beauty. You feel loss because you were once given contact. You grieve because something reached your inner life deeply enough to alter it. If nothing ever touched you, change would not hurt. But then life would be smaller, dimmer, flatter. So perhaps the question is not how to stop feeling the pain of passing things. Perhaps it is how to hold that pain with reverence instead of panic. How to let sadness become a testimony of love rather than evidence of failure. How to let the heart break open a little without deciding it has been broken beyond repair. The Buddha does not ask you not to feel. He asks you to stop demanding that feeling grant ownership over what is passing through. And in that letting go, there is an immense, quiet mercy. You may notice that some of your deepest anxieties are really attempts to negotiate with impermanence. If I can prepare enough, maybe I will not lose. If I can understand enough, maybe I will not be surprised. If I can love correctly, maybe no one will leave. If I can stay useful, maybe I will remain wanted. If I can improve enough, maybe time will spare me. These are such human bargains. Tender, frightened, deeply familiar. But life does not trade in guarantees. It gives no certificate that says this person is safe forever, this season will remain, this body will not age, this heart will never again be asked to let go. This may sound unsettling, yet there is a hidden calm inside it. When you stop bargaining for permanence, you begin to experience the present more fully. You stop postponing contact until certainty arrives. You stop assuming that tomorrow will carry what today failed to value. You become more attentive to the ordinary. A shared laugh, a hand on a shoulder, a message from someone dear, the taste of water when thirsty, the relief of a blanket, the sound of your own breathing when it finally slows. These small things can feel almost holy when seen against the backdrop of change. Impermanence does not cheapen them, it consecrates them. It says, notice this, because it is here now and will not be here in this exact way again. There is an immense softness in that recognition. It turns life from possession into gift, and a gift, even when brief, can be received with gratitude instead of fear. Tonight, you do not have to solve impermanence. You only need to let it make you more tender toward what is already here. Your breath, your body. This night, the simple fact that you are alive enough to feel the passing of things. Even suffering changes. This is important to remember when pain feels endless. It changes form. It changes intensity. It changes the part of you that carries it. Some pains that once devoured the whole horizon become quieter companions. Some that seemed unbearable become part of your language, your empathy, your depth, your way of seeing others. Some return unexpectedly, not because you are back where you started, but because new layers of meaning have become available. This is why healing is never just subtraction. It is transformation. The hurt may not vanish completely, but your relationship to it can become more spacious, more peaceful, less terrified. You can learn to sit beside certain truths without needing to defeat them. A loss can remain a loss and still stop ruling every room. A memory can remain sad and still lose its power to shatter the day. An unanswered question can remain unanswered and yet no longer wake you in panic. This is not because the pain was unreal. It is because the soul can grow around what once seemed larger than life. The passing nature of all things includes the passing nature of your present overwhelm. Even this mood, even this heaviness, even this knot in the chest, even this exact way the night feels will change. Not because you force it, because nothing holds one shape forever. Let that thought lie beside you for a while. Not as a command to feel better, but as a reminder that no inner weather is final. The night is deep, yes, but it is always moving. And because everything moves, suffering too may be hiding something more than pain. Not a lesson that excuses it, and not a cheerful meaning pasted over what hurts. Something quieter, a kind of revelation about what matters. There are losses that strip life to its bones. There are disappointments that take away illusions you once lived by. There are failures that remove borrowed identities and leave you with a more honest self. There are seasons when pain clears the room of trivial concerns and reveals one stubborn truth: that beneath all your plans and performances, you still long for what is simple, real, and living. This is where sorrow becomes strangely clarifying. Not because it is desirable, but because it can expose what comfort hides. Comfort often lets you live at the surface. Pain sends you inward. Comfort can keep you distracted. Pain can return you to essentials. Comfort may flatter the ego. Pain often humbles it. And sometimes, through that humility, you become more capable of love, more capable of gratitude, more aware of small mercies, more sincere in your choices. There is nothing romantic about suffering itself, but there can be something holy in what it uncovers. Viktor Frankl, who knew the extremity of human suffering more intimately than most, wrote that everything can be taken from a person except the last of human freedoms: the freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. In the mouth of a shallow speaker, this idea could become hard or simplistic, but in his, it carries the weight of lived darkness. He was not saying that pain is easy to rise above. He was saying that even in conditions no one would choose, there remains some inward space where dignity can survive. This matters tonight, not because you are being asked to transform your pain into heroism, but because you may need the quieter comfort of knowing that your inner life is not completely at the mercy of circumstances. Something painful may have happened. Something may still be unresolved. Something dear may be missing. And yet within you there remains a small and sacred freedom. The freedom to meet your own hurt with compassion instead of contempt. The freedom to breathe inside uncertainty rather than collapse before it. The freedom to refuse the lie that pain has stripped you of all meaning. The freedom to let sorrow deepen you without turning you cruel. This is not triumph. It is something softer and perhaps more beautiful. It is quiet dignity, the kind that does not announce itself, the kind that exists when a person continues to love truth, beauty, and tenderness even after being disappointed by the world, the kind that lies awake and still chooses not to harden entirely. If that is you tonight, even in a small way, then something very noble is still alive in you. Pain has a way of removing pretense. When you hurt deeply, many borrowed ambitions lose their shine. Certain arguments no longer matter. The desire to be admired can begin to feel thin beside the desire to be real. You may discover that what you want is not applause, but peace. Not endless intensity, but honest connection. Not a perfect life, but a meaningful one. Not invulnerability, but enough courage to remain open to what is good. Suffering does not create these values from nothing. It reveals them by taking away distractions. A hard season can show you which relationships hold true warmth and which were built only on convenience. It can reveal whether you have been living from the center or from performance. It can make you cherish simple things that once slipped past unnoticed. A cup of tea, a quiet conversation, a body that still carries you. An ordinary afternoon without dread, the way a certain light enters a room, the sound of your own breath when it is no longer tight. These are not small things to a soul that has suffered. They become profound. They become evidence that life, even when wounded, still contains beauty worth noticing. This is why some of the gentlest people you will ever meet are not those who have never known sorrow, but those who have known it and not become bitter. They carry a certain softness, not because pain failed to mark them, but because it taught them what deserves reverence. Perhaps some of your own tenderness has been shaped this way. Perhaps the things that hurt you most have also made you more patient with others. more aware of hidden struggles, more able to detect the fragile places beneath strong faces? If so, your pain has not been meaningless, even if you would never have chosen it. There is comfort in admitting that your suffering does not have to become useful in a grand, visible, impressive way in order to matter. It does not need to produce a mission, a message, a reinvention, or a lesson you can wrap neatly for others. Sometimes pain simply asks to be carried with gentleness. Sometimes the dignity lies not in transforming it into something admirable, but in not abandoning yourself while it is here. A culture obsessed with achievement often pressures people to turn every wound into wisdom on demand. But the soul does not heal like a factory. Some sorrows remain quiet for years. Some only soften in hidden ways. Some never become inspirational, and yet they deepen the person who bears them. If tonight you are aching in a way that has no clear use, let that be allowed. You do not need to justify your hurt. You do not need to prove that it made you stronger, wiser, better, or more evolved. It may simply have made you more aware of the fragility of life, and that is enough. It may simply have made you long more honestly for what is real. It may simply have made you tired. Even that deserves kindness. The peaceful thought here is not that all suffering has an obvious purpose. It is that your suffering need not be explained to be met with tenderness. It belongs to the dignity of being human that some things hurt beyond language, and still you continue, still you breathe, still you search for a softer way to hold the day. There is no small grace in that. Often the wound beneath the wound is loneliness. Not only the loneliness of being left, though that exists, also the loneliness of carrying what cannot be fully shared. The loneliness of being looked at and not quite seen. The loneliness of knowing that even people who love you cannot step all the way inside your experience. Pain can sharpen this feeling. It can make the world seem farther away, as if everyone else kept moving while you were quietly changed. Yet suffering can also create a new form of kinship. It can make you more porous to other lives, more capable of sensing the hidden ache in strangers, more respectful of the burdens that do not announce themselves. A person who has suffered deeply often stops assuming that visible composure means inner ease. They know too much for that. They know how often smiles cover effort, how often kindness is offered by those who are themselves running on emptiness, how often ordinary conversations float above inner oceans. This knowledge is sad, but it is also compassionate. It makes the heart more spacious. It allows you to walk through the world with less arrogance and more wonder. Everyone is carrying a private history. Everyone has known something unchosen. Everyone is trying, in ways that may never be visible, to live with what life has given and taken. To remember this can make your own loneliness feel less absolute. You are alone in your exact experience, yes, but you are not alone in the condition of being human. Others too have lain awake, feeling both tender and tired, wondering how to keep loving a world that does not promise safety. Others too have searched for a peaceful way to hold the unfinishedness of life. In that sense, you belong to something vast and quiet, the fellowship of mortal hearts. Sometimes meaning does not arrive as an answer. It arrives as a way of carrying, as a tone of presence, as the refusal to let darkness make you cruel, as the decision to remain gentle with people who did not create your pain, as the choice to protect a little beauty even while grieving, as the willingness to let one honest breath matter. This is why rest becomes possible not when the whole story is solved, but when the soul begins to trust its own manner of meeting the story. You do not need all the pieces tonight. You do not need the full future. You do not need a clear arc that redeems every wound. You may only need to sense that your life, in all its uncertainty, can still be lived with grace. Not perfect grace, human grace. The kind that stumbles and returns. The kind that feels broken and still offers warmth. The kind that does not always know what to do, but knows how to remain sincere. That may be the deepest meaning available in this hour, not a final theory, a posture of heart, a way of being with what is real. And if you can feel even a small movement toward that, then the night has already shifted. Something in you has stopped wrestling long enough to listen. Now the atmosphere begins to soften further. Not because all the truths of life have grown easier, but because the mind is slowly discovering it does not have to grip them so tightly. There is a kind of surrender that sounds frightening when misunderstood. It sounds like defeat, collapse, giving up on what matters. But the surrender that brings peace is different. It is the laying down of unnecessary war. It is the end of fighting reality for being reality. It is the breath that finally stops insisting that life explain itself before the body is allowed to rest. So much of human tension comes from inward resistance. This should not have happened. This should have lasted longer. I should have been different. They should have understood. The future should feel clearer. My heart should be over this by now. These thoughts are deeply human, and there is no need to shame them. Yet each one contains a hidden argument with what already is. And arguments with reality are exhausting, because reality does not surrender under pressure. It only sits there, silent, waiting for the heart to become softer than its refusal. This softness is not instant. It ripens slowly, often through tiredness, often through tears, often through the humble recognition that the fight itself has become heavier than the truth it resists. Tonight, perhaps the next peaceful thought is simply this. You do not have to approve of everything that has happened in order to stop fighting its existence. You do not have to like what is true in order to rest beside it. You do not have to call pain good in order to release your grip on impossible alternatives. There is great mercy in that distinction. It allows acceptance to remain honest rather than forced. It says, yes, this is difficult, and yes, this is here. Two truths, one breath. Lao Tzu offered the image of water, and it remains one of the quietest teachings ever given. Water does not harden itself to prove its strength. It yields, and in its yielding it moves around stones, enters low places, wears down what is rigid, reflects the sky without trying to possess it, and finds its path without violence. For a tired mind, this image can feel like a blessing. So many people live as if tension were the only honorable way to move through uncertainty. They brace against change, against vulnerability, against not knowing, against the ordinary softness of being alive. But bracing all the time makes the soul heavy. It interrupts the natural intelligence of feeling. It turns every challenge into a contest of force. Water suggests another way, not passivity, but harmony, not weakness, but responsiveness, not collapse, but the quiet power of not being at war with your own nature. What if tonight you allowed yourself to be more like that? Not fixed, not defended, not trying to hold a perfect shape, just present, just yielding where yielding is wiser than strain. A tear yields, a breath yields. Sleep itself is a yielding. The body cannot enter rest through conquest. It enters through release. The mind, too, may need less management and more permission. Permission to drift a little. Permission not to finish every thought. Permission not to resolve every memory. Permission to sink below the loud surface where the deeper currents know how to carry you. Water does not panic because it cannot hold one form forever. It knows movement is its nature. Perhaps your life, too, can be trusted a little more when you stop trying to freeze it into certainty. There is something deeply peaceful in belonging to life, rather than trying to master it. Mastery is attractive to the mind because it promises safety. If I understand enough, prepare enough, improve enough, perhaps I can stand above suffering. But no one stands above being human. The desire to do so often creates a loneliness of its own. It separates you from your own vulnerability. It makes natural feelings seem like failures. It turns tenderness into a problem. Belonging is softer. It says, I am part of this great changing mystery. I am not above it. I am in it. I belong to mornings and evenings, to beginnings and endings, to gain and loss, to youth and age, to knowing and not knowing, to attachment and release, to beauty and sorrow, to laughter and to the strange hush that follows it. There is comfort in remembering that you were never meant to stand outside life and manage it from a clean distance. You were meant to inhabit it, to be touched by it, to participate in its passing, to become more yourself through meeting it honestly. When you feel this, even uncertainty becomes less alien. It is no longer a defect in reality. It is part of the atmosphere of existence. The future remains unclear, yes, but futures have always been unclear. Love remains vulnerable, yes, but love has always been vulnerable. Bodies age, people change, plans shift, time moves, hearts break and open again. This is not proof that life is untrustworthy. It is proof that life is alive. And you, lying here in this quiet hour, belong to that aliveness, even in your confusion. There are questions that grow wiser when they are not pressed too hard. The mind wants immediate answers because uncertainty feels like exposure. But many of the deepest human questions ripen only in slow time. What does this loss mean? Who am I becoming? Why did this relationship shape me so strongly? What is still worth giving my heart to? How do I live well when so much can be taken? These are not questions to hammer into submission. They are questions to live beside, to let breathe, to let gather texture through experience. Night can make them feel urgent because the dark enlarges unfinished things. Yet there is peace in allowing some questions to remain open, not forever as a way of avoidance, but for tonight as a way of mercy. You do not have to solve the whole of your life between midnight and sleep. You do not have to extract a conclusion from every ache. You do not have to know exactly who you are in order to rest inside being. Some truths arrive only after the mind has stopped chasing them. Some meanings appear at the edge of surrender. Some wounds reveal their shape only when you stop poking them. A quiet life is not one without questions. It is one that no longer treats every unanswered thing as a threat. It knows that mystery is not always danger. Sometimes mystery is simply the natural horizon of a finite life. You are allowed to be unfinished. You are allowed to be in process. You are allowed to be a soul who does not yet know what certain experiences are making of you. The night can hold that. It is larger than your need to conclude. There is also peace in becoming less divided against yourself. Much suffering comes not only from pain, but from self-rejection in the presence of pain. You feel fear and then condemn yourself for being fearful. You feel grief and then judge yourself for still grieving. You feel tenderness and then hide it from yourself because it seems too vulnerable, too much, too late, too inconvenient. This inner division is tiring. It keeps the nervous system alert. It tells the body there is danger not only in the world, but in the self. Yet what if the path to rest is not self-improvement in this hour, but self-reconciliation? What if your task tonight is not to become another person, but to stop refusing the one who is here, the one who is weary, the one who still remembers, the one who wishes some things had been otherwise, the one who still hopes, the one who still hurts, the one who does not want to be hard. This self does not need to be fixed before it is embraced. It can be embraced as it is, and from that embrace, something naturally begins to settle. When the inner child, the adult self, the wounded self, the hopeful self, and the tired self are no longer treated as enemies competing for control, the whole system relaxes. You become less like a court and more like a home, less like a battlefield and more like a room with dim light and open hands. That may be one of the deepest peaceful thoughts of all. You do not have to win against yourself in order to deserve sleep. If you listen very quietly, beneath the noise of thought, there is often a simpler knowledge already present. It does not argue. It does not explain itself at length. It feels more like a gentle leaning toward what is true. Perhaps it is saying that some things are over, and that grieving them is more honest than trying to resurrect them. Perhaps it is saying that one part of your life is asking to be left behind, not because it was worthless, but because it cannot carry you further. Perhaps it is saying that you have been harsher with yourself than the moment required. Perhaps it is saying that your longing is not a defect, but evidence of the soul's depth. Perhaps it is saying that you can survive not knowing. This inner knowing is easy to miss because it rarely shouts. The anxious mind is louder. The restless imagination is louder. Old fears are louder. But the quiet knowing has a steadiness to it. It feels less like pressure and more like recognition, less like panic and more like homecoming. The philosophers point toward it in different ways, but you do not need to name it tonight. You only need to notice that there is a softer intelligence in you than the one that keeps rehearsing disaster, an intelligence that understands rhythm, seasons, limits, grief, rest, and timing, an intelligence that knows sleep cannot be forced, only invited. Trust that a little. Trust the body that knows how to soften when not bullied. Trust the heart that has carried many things already and is still here. Trust the inner life enough to let it breathe without constant correction. You do not need to disappear into perfect peace. You only need to stop interrupting the small peace that is already trying to reach you. And then, almost without announcing itself, a more spacious feeling begins to enter the room. Not resolution, something kinder than that. Permission. Permission to be incomplete tonight. Permission to let tomorrow remain tomorrow. Permission to let certain names, certain faces, certain what-ifs drift farther from the center of your immediate attention. Permission to remember that life has always been too large to solve in one sitting. You have already carried enough for one day. Even if the burden was invisible, it was real. Even if no one else saw the weight of your thoughts, the effort of your composure, the tenderness of your private struggles, the inward labor still counted. It is enough now, or if not enough in the sense of finished, then enough in the sense that no further wrestling is required this hour. The soul does not need to earn rest by reaching total clarity. Rest is one of the ways clarity sometimes arrives later in its own time. That is a beautiful reversal to remember. You do not have to understand in order to soften. Sometimes you must soften in order to understand. The mind that lets go a little becomes more transparent to truth. The heart that stops clutching becomes more able to feel what it actually feels. And the body that is finally allowed to be only a body, breathing in the dark, often finds its way toward sleep as naturally as a leaf finds water. Let us stay here a little longer, because there is sweetness in the slowing. Think of all the parts of life that ask for effort. Speaking well, choosing carefully, working, caring, responding, deciding, enduring, appearing, managing, protecting, remembering. A great portion of the day is built from active participation. But sleep is different. Rest is different. Peace, at least in the night, is not another achievement. It is a consent, a quiet ceasing of unnecessary activity, a willingness to let the world continue without your supervision for a few hours. This can be surprisingly difficult for people who love deeply or carry responsibilities seriously. Some part of them fears that letting go means neglect, but the earth does not need your worry in order to turn until morning. The people you love cannot be kept safe by your tension tonight. The past cannot be amended by one more mental trial. The future will not become obedient because you kept yourself awake in anticipation. What can happen, though, is this. Your breath can grow slower. Your shoulders can unlearn a little vigilance. Your thoughts can become less sharp at the edges. Your inner world can stop standing at attention. You can enter the old human rhythm of yielding to darkness, trusting that not everything must remain conscious to remain real. There is wisdom in that rhythm. Even the soul needs times when it is not explaining itself. Sometimes the most restful thought is also the simplest. I am here. This breath is here. This bed is here. The night is here. I do not have to travel far from this moment. When the mind spins, it moves into invented futures and revised pasts. It becomes crowded with what if only, and what next. Yet the body is always in the present. It is lying here. It is breathing now. It is held by gravity, by fabric, by the ordinary quiet of being alive in one specific place and hour. Returning to this does not erase larger concerns. It only reminds you that not all of your being is lost in abstraction. A great deal of peace enters through concrete contact, the coolness or warmth of the air, the rise and fall in the chest, the soft weight of blankets, the subtle heaviness growing behind the eyes, the way thoughts become less fixed when not pursued. There is something almost childlike in this, and that is not a criticism. Children know how to rest in sensation more easily than adults. Adults often live in explanation. Tonight, you can come back a little from explanation into presence, not abandoning thought entirely, only loosening its authority. Let the body be wise in its own wordless way. It has ancient knowledge. It knows how to sleep. It knows how to recover from the day. It knows how to descend if the mind stops gripping the edges. Trust that hidden instinct. Trust the life in you that predates all your current questions. If a regret is still near, you do not need to drive it away with violence. Regret is often just love looking backward at what it cannot redo. It says, I wish I had known. I wish I had spoken differently. I wish I had seen more clearly. I wish I had valued what was before me before time revealed its fragility. There is sorrow in this, but also tenderness. Only a heart that cares regrets deeply. Only a conscience still alive feels the ache of better possibilities. So do not treat regret as proof that you are ruined. Sometimes it is the soul's quiet evidence that goodness still matters to you. The task is not to live without ever looking back. It is to stop turning every backward glance into a condemnation of your whole being. You were always limited by what you knew then, by what you feared then, by what you had the strength to see then. This does not excuse everything, but it does humanize it. You have learned since then, perhaps painfully. You have become more aware because life taught you in the language of consequence and longing. There is sadness in that education. Yet tonight, let regret soften into humility rather than harden into self-punishment. Let it say, I see more now. I was human then. and I am human now. I cannot return, but I can become gentler because I have felt this. Then even regret becomes quieter. It stops pacing. It sits down at the edge of the room and loses some of its demand to be answered immediately. If fear is near, the same gentleness can meet it. Fear often appears as urgency. Solve this now. Predict this now. Prepare harder. Do not relax. Something bad may happen the moment you do, but fear is not always prophecy. Often it is memory mixed with imagination. Often it is the nervous system trying to protect you by staying ahead of possible pain. This instinct is old, understandable, and sometimes useful. Yet it can become tyrannical when it never stands down. Late at night, fear can borrow the voice of wisdom. It can sound practical, responsible, necessary. Yet true wisdom leaves room for breath. It does not demand endless vigilance at the cost of life itself. If you have spent much of your life bracing, then rest may feel unfamiliar, even suspicious. You may feel as if loosening your grip is dangerous. But there is danger too in never loosening. The body pays for that. The spirit pays for that. Relationships pay for that. Fear deserves compassion because it often began as love trying to prevent harm, but it also needs a boundary. Tonight, the boundary may be very simple. Thank you for trying to protect me. You do not have to stay on guard this whole night. I am allowed to lie down inside uncertainty. I am allowed not to know. I am allowed to be unarmed for a few hours. This is not foolishness. It is a form of trust, not in guaranteed outcomes, but in the deeper truth that a human being cannot live in constant alarm and remain whole. Rest is not betrayal of caution. It is part of sanity. If love is what keeps you awake, in one form or another, let us be gentle with that too. Love is one of the great disturbers of sleep because it touches everything. It stirs memory, hope, fear, loyalty, grief, tenderness, imagination, and the ache of what is unfinished. You may be thinking of someone close, someone far, someone lost, someone changing, someone once beloved, someone you never quite reached, someone who remains in you in ways you did not choose. Love does not obey reason completely. It leaves traces beyond conclusion, and because of that, it can make night feel both full and hollow. Yet love is also one of the reasons life is worth bearing at all. It is the force that makes beauty matter, that makes loss painful, that makes regret tender, that makes ordinary moments glow. Stoic peace does not deny love. It only tries to save love from becoming possession. It says, "Love deeply, yes, but do not insist that what you love must obey your wishes in order to remain beautiful." This is difficult. It may be the most difficult thing. To let another soul remain free, to let memory be memory, to let love exist without demanding certainty, to let absence hurt without turning that hurt into proof that love was mistaken. If you can hold even a little of that tonight, your heart may begin to breathe differently, not less deeply, more freely. Love need not be solved before sleep. It only needs permission to be what it is, one of the great and tender mysteries of being alive. And what of the life you have not yet lived, the part still forming, the roads not taken, the choices not yet made, the version of yourself that has not quite arrived? These too can keep a person awake, not only the past, but the unlived future. You may feel behind. You may feel uncertain whether you are becoming who you hoped to become. You may look at your life and see incompletion everywhere, blank spaces where clarity should be, old delays, hesitant movements, questions still open. But perhaps a peaceful Stoic thought about life is this: no human being ever sleeps inside a finished self. We are all incomplete. even the wise, even the loved, even the admired, even the elderly, even the accomplished. Completion is not the condition of being worthy of peace. Incompletion is part of the condition of being alive. A seed is not ashamed that it has not yet become a tree. A river is not ashamed that it has not yet reached the sea. Only human beings, in their restless self-consciousness, turn process into accusation. What if you did not do that tonight? What if you let yourself be in motion without calling it failure? You are not late to your own life in the way fear suggests. You are in it now with all its detours, losses, openings, strange delays, and hidden ripenings. Much may still change. Much may still bloom in forms you cannot predict. The future does not require you to be fully formed before dawn. It only asks that you keep some room in yourself for what is not yet visible. That room can be quiet. It can be dark in the good way, like soil around a seed. There is also the matter of death, which lives quietly inside every thought about time, love, and change, even when it is not named. Many sleepless feelings are really shadows cast by mortality. The fear that something dear will end, the pain that something already has, the urgency to make meaning before time runs out, the tenderness toward ordinary moments because they cannot last. Stoic thought has never been far from this truth. It does not turn away from death. It lets the reality of endings make life more vivid, more honest, more reverent, not frantic, reverent. To remember that life is finite is not to become morbid. It is to become sincere. It asks what really matters under the gaze of impermanence. What is worth my limited attention? What kind of presence do I want to bring to those I love while they are here? What needless pride can be loosened? What tenderness can be expressed sooner rather than later? These are not questions to stir anxiety tonight. They are questions that gently clear away the trivial. Death, in this philosophical sense, becomes not a shadow that poisons life, but a quiet teacher that reveals its contours. It reminds you that this breath matters because it is not endless. This conversation mattered because it could not go on forever. This ordinary day, with all its imperfections, was still one unrepeatable piece of your life. Even now, lying here, you are inside a moment that will never return in exactly this form. That is not a reason to fear the night. It is a reason to let it be sacred in its own quiet way. And still, even with all this depth, the soul does not need to remain solemn. There is something light inside wisdom too, a gentleness almost like a smile. Life is strange after all. Strange that we are conscious at all. Strange that we feel so much. Strange that we can hold sorrow and gratitude in the same body. Strange that one small memory can change the shape of an entire evening. Strange that sleep comes to us every night like a little death and a little mercy, asking only that we release ourselves from control for a while. Perhaps part of peace is learning to be slightly less shocked by the mystery of things, to stop demanding that existence be simple before we agree to live it, to let life remain full of half-light paradox and unanswered music. There is a freedom in that. It means you do not have to straighten every curve. You do not have to flatten every mystery into certainty. You can let some things remain beautiful because they cannot be fully grasped. A person, a memory,